Hi everybody, Pen here with Yoga Sizes. I have Erika Velazquez today. I'm really excited to have her on. We've met at a nursing home or like a adult facility like a few years back, and we're both occupational therapists. I was just doing
Yep.
coverage at that time, and we connected, and we see each other on Facebook. And then she got her yoga teacher certification, and she's been teaching. I've seen all these videos. She goes to different community, different places to teach, and she teaches at studios. I was like, I gotta reach out to her and let's get this interview in the way, get a schedule. So that's how we ended up here, and I'm really thrilled to have her on. Thank you for being on with us, Erika.
Of course, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. All right. Um, okay. So she has an amazing story about her background in how she's getting started with occupational therapy. We actually work for the same department type of thing, but in different locations, in school settings. Please share your story of how you got started with occupational therapy and why you also want to add yoga into the mix, and if you're using this at work or not.
Well, my dad is a Vietnam veteran. So growing up, he always told me his story about, being in Vietnam and he was injured. He got shot in his knee. So he would always tell me about physical therapy, excuse me, and how important it was for his recovery. He said that he was 18 and the doctors told him that he would never walk again after he got injured. And so he went to physical therapy and he thought he could walk and he was in the wheelchair and he fell down. And then he says he remembers the long journey that the physical therapist had with him doing aqua therapy and helping him walk again. And initially when they wanted to amputate his leg, because of physical therapy, he was able to walk again and he didn't have his leg amputated. And then he said later on that he was able to meet my mom and able to have a better quality of life because even though the doctor stitched him up, it was a physical therapist that gave him, his quality of life. So I kind of was interested in therapy. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do physical therapy or occupational. And I found out in undergrad about what occupational therapy was. And I was like, this is for me. And I just, started taking all the prereqs. And I was like, I want to go to Columbia. And, I applied and I got in. And I just always remember my dad's story about how important it was that therapists gave him his quality of life, and really helped him to live the life that he wanted to live. And I was like, I want to do that for people and I want to make a difference too. And then when it comes to the yoga part, I've been practicing for over 10 years. I had a friend of mine who had friends that were in the dance world, Alvin Ailey. Some of my dance friends, this African-American dance company. And she's like, they don't work out. They just do Pilates and yoga. And of course, they're like, have amazing bodies and they're ripped. And so I got introduced to hot yoga. And I was like, this is so hot. I came with all these clothing on and I hated it. And I almost threw up the first class, but I left feeling, rejuvenated, feeling amazing. And as a therapist, I'm like, this is a smart idea. You put yourself in the heat, you stretch your body. Like I know all the science behind it. And after that, I just fell in love with yoga. And it's been a long 10-year journey. I always wanted to get my certification, but it was always like too much money or, it's somewhere in Bali, like super far away for 3 months and I can't afford to take the time off. And then I got an opportunity in the end of last year to do Breathe for Change. And they were a program that was geared towards teachers. And a lot of the curriculum is pedagogue based that teachers could use in the classroom. But of course, it was on the weekends. And it was like 5 months from January to May. So I was like, I can do this. I don't have to take off from work. It's not astronomically expensive. And it worked really well. And I actually decided to do the training after I had a trauma of experiencing ectopic pregnancy last year. And then that kind of forced me even more. Like, life is short. You never know what could happen. So if you have a dream, you have to follow it with all your heart.
Thank you for sharing your story. I'm glad your dad got better and met your mom and that way. And I'm sorry about the pregnancy.
Thank you.
Well, as for yoga, you work with children, right? And you said what age group, what setting do you work at?
So I work in elementary school from pre-K to 5. I've been there for about 6 years now. And I did do what we call a cluster at the end of last year from like March to June, where my principal wants all the teachers to find a topic that they really enjoy and teach the kids about the topic. So luckily, since my curriculum is social emotionally based, I kind of use that as my plan of idea. You know, I'm going to teach kids yoga, meditation under the premise of SEL, which is social emotional learning. And she loved the idea and she allowed me to do it. So I did it with the kids for about 4 months and they responded very well. I had a child in the class whose sister committed suicide and she found her body hanging in the closet. And she was in my cluster and, you know, I freaked out because I'm like, this little girl is in 4th grade, you know, her older sister is no longer here. And I feel somewhat responsible when she comes back to my yoga cluster, you know, how am I gonna not address the issue, but also not ignore it and see if she's doing okay. You know, and it was towards the end of the cluster and she came and she thanked everyone for being there for her. She didn't explain obviously what happened, but that she felt loved and supported. And, you know, we did a meditation for her, a singing meditation to send, you know, healing energies towards her family and her. And it was really powerful to see the kids, you know, talk about being bullied and see the kids talk about enjoy breathing and meditating and exercises and all the fun things that, you know, was part of my curriculum. The kids just really enjoyed it and they just became kinder and more amazing people than they already were.
Yeah, I remember seeing that you posted about it. I was like, oh my goodness, that's really, really sad. And that's unfortunate, but I'm glad you're able to help the other kids in the class so that it could prevent future incidents like that.
Yeah, because I work in the Bronx, you know, and unfortunately you see so many things because of poverty and, you know, I don't even know what it is. It's just people maybe not knowing, having access to tools of wellness. That it's very sad, the stories that you hear, the things that happen, but I'm also glad that I'm from the Bronx. And in a lot of ways I can relate to the kids and their stories. And that makes me have a better connection with them because they're like, oh, she looks like me. And, you know, she comes from a difficult background like me. You know, she's had trauma too. And it makes me bond with the students in a better way and the parents too.
So glad that you're able to help that community. Yes, definitely. It is so important. You're right. As for in terms of just helping them, I think that they can relate. So that's good. Yeah. And you mentioned meditation. So how do you what type of meditation you do, and what kind of like guidance do you provide for the students?
Well, the meditations are all different ones. You know, I try not to keep it too long because a lot of times they have a hard time sitting still. But actually, the kids love meditation or savasana the most out of even like the poses. And I find for adults, it's actually harder for them to focus and to relax in savasana, whereas the kids are like, I get to lay down and take a nap, you know, or fall asleep or relax. So it'll be, you know, loving kindness meditations where they're learning to accept their body, learning to, you know, deal with conflict with other people. And there's just various ones, you know, I don't recall all the ones that I've done, but whichever meditation I have done, the kids responded well and they were able to give good feedback about how they felt or what they were imagining. And they just feel energetically rested, but also full of more energy when, you know, the meditation is over. And I initially thought that kids wouldn't like meditation but I find that they like it more. And the adults that I teach are like, I can't meditate. It's so hard for me, but the kids really enjoy it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's the thing. It's common for them not to sit still. But sometimes I try to do like walking meditation or like anything that they're doing, it can be meditative. So I'm trying to incorporate that, like just being mindful of anything that they do. And that'll help with getting them to sit still.
Yeah. I haven't done it with my students in September. But, you know, I think I might want to take some small groups and try to do at least part of the session, maybe starting off with some stretches and meditation, because the kids responded really well to it last year.
That's awesome. Yay. That's good to hear. If you follow her on social media, you get to see that she posts about these classes, and it's amazing to see her progress and to see that these kids are like, they look so happy when they're in her class.
Thanks. Yeah, they're amazing. They really surprise me every day. Like how, despite all the difficulties they have growing up, you know, they just are just wonderful people.
That's great. Mm-hmm. So you work with kids. Do you also work with adults?
Well, in the beginning of my career, because I've been an OT for 12 years, I did, and that's where I met you, doing a lot of coverages. I started working in hospitals and rehab centers, and then about like 3 to 4 years, and I started doing pediatrics. But I do teach adult yoga now.
Oh, that's what I meant. Yeah, okay.
But I don't
yeah, that's what I meant in terms of adult yoga. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't work with adults anymore, but I do teach adult yoga. And so that's interesting because I meet like a lot of my colleagues and friends of mine who've never been exposed to yoga. And I'm a little surprised. I'm like, wow, maybe 10 years ago, I didn't know what the heck yoga was. But now with all the things that are out there, I would be, expect that they would know what it was, but they know of it, but they've actually never done it. So even though as an instructor, I was always taught not to demonstrate, I find myself having to, okay, let's do downward dog. But they're like, what is that? Oh, and I'm like, okay, I can cue you, but then there's only so much cueing before I can just show you what the pose looks like, and how to modify it. So I do teach adults, and they don't like the meditation often. They don't like the savasana because they're like, why do I have to sit here and do nothing, and just breathe? But then when I explain the scientific benefits behind it and how it's a luxury to take care of yourself, because I enjoy more of like the restorative yoga and like the relaxation coming from the Bikram tradition where it's like, hold your leg, you're sweating bullets and you're wondering if you're going to be able to have enough oxygen to survive the 90 minutes. It's really nice to have kind of more of a relaxed class so people can de-stress. Because, stress is a huge cause in America of so many ailments. And people oftentimes don't have a way to release that tension. So I want people to come to my class and feel like this is a time and a luxury, like going to a spa, that they can have an hour for themselves to just relax and let go of all the stuff that, maybe bothering them or on their mind, and everyone leaves feeling tired, they say. They fall asleep during savasana, which is great, and they leave feeling energetically like uplifted and, feel like they can conquer the world.
That's awesome. I got to schedule. We got to meet and then, just learn from each other, and I got to take one of your classes. Sounds amazing.
That would be awesome. I would love to take one of yours too. And I also teach adults in the Bronx, in Little Italy, which isn't really the greatest area. And even one day I was teaching or getting ready for class, and the young woman passed by with her 2 kids. And the owner of the place was like, hey, why don't you come in, meet our yoga instructor? And the woman was like, oh, I've been wanting to do yoga forever. And my sister invites me all the way downtown to Manhattan to pay like $40 for one class. And I have 2 kids and it's expensive and I can't afford to go all the way downtown. And I was like, well, I'm only charging, $10 a class, and it's across the street from your house, and I also believe in being equitable and fair. I would love to charge $25, making more profit. But to me, it's more important that people receive the benefit of wellness and having the tool and the vehicle to change their life and the life of their family than it is to, okay, well, let me charge what market price yoga classes are going for, when a lot of people, have 2 jobs and can't afford to pay their rent.
Exactly.
So for me, it's more important that people get exposed to that.
Especially like in the areas that we're at, it's kind of hard for a lot of people to afford this type of things.
Yeah, and that's a lot of times why they don't do it, and they don't have access, and they don't even, make an attempt. And I get it. You could easily go for a year of yoga classes, and it'll be $5,000. Exactly. And who can afford that? With have kids and expenses, especially when you're living in a poor area.
Right. Yeah, I don't really go to places to do classes anymore. I'm working on my website to just get everything online. So it's like a remote based. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Cool. Sounds awesome.
Thanks. You touched up a little bit on the different styles of yoga. And so I was going to ask your favorite style of yoga and why, and what are the differences?
Oh, well, vinyasa is something that I've also done and been exposed to on my own time. So I do enjoy vinyasa. Bikram, I would say, I don't really know what type of yoga he describes it as, but it's more of like a Pilates where you hold the posture for a long time. So I did enjoy that for the time that I did Bikram. But I would definitely say restorative yoga, Iyengar, is my favorite. During my training, it wasn't in a Iyengar training, but we did get exposed to what restorative yoga is all about, and holding the postures, for 5 minutes to stretch the connective tissue of your body. And it was such a luxury to actually do yoga and sit on a bolster for 5 minutes and fall asleep and drool, and then, switch to another posture. And I'm like, wow, I feel amazing. And the more that I teach and the more that I introduce different Iyengar, modifications with props and blocks, people love it. They're like, wow, this is really amazing. And I actually ended up having a student in my class that was pregnant. So for the first time, I freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, So I bought the Iyengar book for motherhood. And it's basically, like you were mentioning earlier, the use of props, you know, and how to modify. Because a lot of these women, well, the woman that I was teaching is new to yoga and she's pregnant. And I have seen, you know, other women do yoga that were pregnant, but they had a very strong practice. Like, were practicing for so many years in the Bikram room in 105 degrees while they're 8 months pregnant. And after they had the baby, their stomach was a 6-pack.
Oh my goodness.
It was remarkable how they were practicing through the whole time. They didn't even look pregnant until they turned sideways, and then you see this huge belly. And I'm like, oh my God. And I would watch them in class more than I would actually focus on my own practice, because I couldn't believe that they were so remarkable, like doing all these poses. And I'm like not pregnant. And I'm like, I can't even do that, you know. So I really do have interest in Iyengar, like restorative yoga and prenatal certificate, getting my prenatal certification. But, you know, I don't have it yet, but I'm working on figuring out how.
That's awesome. Yeah, you mentioned the whole restorative yoga in terms of, like, you know, 5 minutes. It depends on the teacher. The style of teaching is very different of how long you hold the poses on those props. Like I went to one of the classes, and it was each pose you have to hold it for 20 minutes, and then for 20 minutes. So basically for that whole hour you do only 3 poses. But then I went to another class that I was actually supposed to be subbing, and that teacher said how she does it is like probably 5 to 10 minutes per pose holding those, and then transition is more like a flow, but just stay longer in that position with props. So it depends on the teacher that's teaching restorative yoga. It's quite interesting.
Oh, interesting. See, I didn't know 20 minutes seems long, but I feel 5 minutes is better because you get the benefits, and then you can also do more poses, you know, because they say if you're gonna flex, you know, you need to extend. So whenever you do one position in one direction, you have to do the other in the opposite, because it can be balanced.
Yeah. It really, you gotta listen to your body, right? Everybody's different, and some students they lean towards like 5 minutes maybe, and then some lean towards 20 minutes, some like in between.
Yeah, true.
Right. So what's your do you have like a routine that you follow on a daily basis, like morning routine, or like things that you have to go do, like non-negotiables in your daily activity?
Oh, I always wake up, you know, about 15 minutes earlier to do a small practice. I mean, I know it's not, you know, because I prefer 30 to 45 minutes every day. I didn't really practice yoga every day until after my training. And I realized the importance of how it made me feel. And then I kind of feel like, you know, I got to practice what I preach. So meditation wasn't something that I enjoyed, even though 10 years of yoga, when it was Savasana and meditation, I was like, okay, I'm done. And I would just get up and leave class. But during my training, I had a meditation guru who's Buddhist, and she introduced meditation in such an amazing way that it became the thing I loved the most. So I start my classes with a meditation and end it with a meditation, but I do the same thing for myself. In the morning, I stretch. I do like a 2 to 5 minute meditation, and then I get up, you know, take a shower, make my breakfast, and make sure I'm out of the house, you know, within a little bit over an hour. And then sometimes at night, I'll do a bit more of a practice, and I also include my husband in that, because he's kind of new to yoga, even though he does Tai Chi. So we'll do a practice together or meditation. But even if I'm not able to stretch every day, the meditation is something that I make sure that I do, because I find it keeps me balanced. It helps me to be able to deal with all kinds of people, whether it's students or teachers. Sometimes teachers are harder to deal with than actual kids, you know, or just driving in traffic and, you know, road rage. It really helps me kind of balance myself out. And I find things don't affect me as much as they used to, even 6 months ago or a year ago. I'm able to like process something. Okay, I got upset. All right. And just let it go. Or, you know, I'm frustrated, and then I can just let it go and not be so, you know, hold on to things or let it kind of affect me.
That's great. What's the kind of meditation do you do? Do you like use music in the background, or do you kind of mentally say a mantra, or do you use like essential oils? Do you use like crystals? Like what kind of meditation do you do?
I don't do crystals or oil, because I feel like I need to research more about, you know, what kind of crystals I use and oil, and I'm not really that savvy with all that. But I use an app called the Insight Timer, and it has a whole bunch of different meditations, whether it's to improve my sleep, help manage stress, deal with anxiety, and I'll just pick one. I usually like the guided ones, because I feel like there's music in the background and they speak to you, so they kind of give you something that your mind can focus on. But then there also are music meditations that I might do, you know, just to kind of relax me. It just depends on what I feel like I need at that moment. And I really find it helps because what I liked about the meditation during my training was someone was there guiding me through the steps and helping me to figure out what to think about. But it's harder when you're alone and your meditation guru is not there and you're like, I could do my own meditation, but actually rather do it for someone else. But it's harder for me to just do it by myself with no music, no guided meditations, and I'm just there sitting down in silence. So I definitely like the guided ones where they speak to you and give you kind of like, breathe in and breathe out, or focus on this or let this go. I really enjoy the guided ones.
That's awesome. I was like that too when I first started meditation, and even during my 100-hour meditation teacher training, I was like that too. But it actually, everything shifted when I discovered transcendental meditation. And that basically you don't use anything, and you just, instead of like sitting cross-legged on a mat or somewhere, you just sit comfortably on a chair where you're not really like cross-legged, but you're connected. Bare feet is better, like where you're connected to the ground and your head is like, basically you're connected up from the top and then also from the ground level. And then this style of meditation is the person that trains you assigns you a mantra. And it's like it completely changed everything about how I view meditation. And this type of meditation has been the best that I've ever tried. I've tried all sorts of meditation. And when it comes to experience and actually like experiencing complete, just pure consciousness, like my first time trying that, I'm like, I've just experienced pure consciousness. This is like amazing. So we gotta talk. I'll talk to you more about this maybe after the interview.
Yes, I will say, what kind of mantras give you? That's cool.
It's supposed to be private. Like you don't share what the assigned mantra is for you, and it's all for you to keep, and it's only you that use that mantra, and that's what you use. So it's really neat.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's based on your experience and what you're at now and what your goals are, and then they do like a whole interview process, and you have to go through 4 days of consecutive training just to learn the practice of it.
Oh wow, that's cool. Amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So for meditate, okay. And what about your, like, in terms of recommendations for personal development, like for what are some book recommendations that you will recommend for listeners, or things like that?
Well, for personal development, I mean, a lot of the things I learned came from my training book, obviously, which, only people that took the training would have. But I like the Iyengar books, just the Iyengar one in general. I mean, probably over 300 pages, and the Iyengar for motherhood, I do recommend. But and then I have the Bikram book. So I think I've just kind of researched more and read about the different styles of yoga that I enjoy. And so those are books that I would recommend, but I'm not really reading anything specifically besides those 3 books, kind of on and off. And it's a good 700 pages that I have to get through. So I would recommend those, and definitely for people to go to class and, make sure that they have experience of what it's like to be in a yoga class, to make sure that the teacher can adjust them if they feel comfortable. Because with the yoga over time, you don't want to injure yourself. You can do a pose several times with a video, but then if someone's not there in front of you, especially in the beginning of your practice, you may not know what you're doing, and you could over time hurt yourself. And I feel like sometimes doing Bikram, that's what happens. So many people in a class, and then I pull my hip flexor, and my back is hurting me because the heat is so warm. You don't realize how flexible you're being. Yeah. So I do recommend people experience at least 1 yoga class or 2, and see what type of style of yoga that they like, and then follow through with that. And then get a meditation app, or like you said, look and discover what types of meditation there are, because that is so key to the yoga practice. And I think just in general, for people to kind of relax and help to fulfill their karmic duty of why am I here.
Exactly. You're right. Yeah. That's good tips, good advice. Those are some good books that you recommended. So thank you. So during, throughout the years in your practice, either occupational therapy, yoga, or what you've learned in the trainings and books, like in general from different people, what is one important lesson that you've learned that impacted you, like made a big difference, and that you have to share with others?
Well, in terms of being an occupational therapist, I realized that the human spirit is very powerful, You know, I've seen people with disabilities, you know, not able to do much, and their desire to get better and their desire to, you know, have the life that they want is really remarkable. With children, you know, again, the resiliency that they have, where they might have a problem, they're not even aware of it, and how loving and bubbly they are and how they just enjoy life. That is one thing that children have taught me is, you know, don't hold on to things, you know, just be happy you're alive, be happy for the people around you, you know, and just enjoy the life that you've been given. Um, excuse me. And then in my yoga practice, I would say the one thing that stuck to me is that anything's possible. You know, I mean, when I started 10 years ago, I was in a, you know, a loveless marriage with a man who cheated on me. And I was able to have the courage in my yoga practice to overcome that marriage, divorce him, and then find, you know, true love with my husband now. It was a very long journey, but it was also a journey of self-love, you know, realizing that yoga has taught me that if I don't love myself and take care of myself, I can't be there for anyone else. And I'm not showing up as my best self. So even though nothing is about me, everything is about me, you know, because I have to always come back to the self and realizing that I can do whatever I want to do and accomplish any goals. And that goes for everyone in the world. You know, many people have been bullied and told that they can't do something because of the color of their skin or their ethnicity or their religion or because they're too skinny or too overweight. And in this world, people always criticize each other. And I realized that, you know, those people have their own issues and it has nothing to do with me. But, you know, people can do whatever it is that they want to do. They just have to start a meditative practice to be mindful. And then with time, they can manifest the reality that they want.
That is so good. That is so true.
So I would say those were, you know, the three main like components of working with kids, adults, and in yoga that has been really powerful for me. And I've been able to like put it into practice, you know, instead of just talking about it like I used to. Now my words have power because I don't talk about it. I'm doing it, you know, and it's a part of my life.
That's great. It's so important. Like, doesn't matter how much you learn, if you don't do it, then if you don't, you know, get it out there, then it wouldn't make a difference. So I'm so glad that you're taking actions and you're spreading the words and you're sharing what you've learned with everybody. That's awesome.
And just to add, you know, because I'm a person of color. My dad is actually Jamaican and my mom is Puerto Rican and Italian. So growing up in the Bronx my whole life, you know, I experienced a lot of racism in this country because I was dark skinned and my hair is very curly. You know, people call me derogatory names and spit in my face, you know, made fun of the fact that I look different, that I might have spoken different. And so unfortunately in communities of color, you know, these things happen and there are generational trauma of finances, you know, like my parents don't own property, not knowing how to be financially free, you know, and having like a ton of student loan debt, not knowing how to be, you know, socially, emotionally competent and how to improve my relationships and how to make, you know, better relationships and deal with conflicts. And unfortunately, there's so many things that affect communities of color, not having access to education, not having access to resources or even healthy food in a community that's poor with this fried chicken places everywhere and no places that have fresh organic food. You know, so one thing that I really believe powerfully in is social justice also, and making sure that communities of color have access to yoga, to knowing that, you know, it's better if you have organic food or you try to eat more of a balanced diet. You know, you can become financially free and try to pay your debt off. You know, you can stand up for yourself if someone's putting you down. And just the tools of social emotional learning, the 5 components, I believe, you know, my yoga practice is more than just let's just stretch and let's just breathe. You know, I really do believe, like, unfortunately in America, there's so many things that are upside down, you know, and the rich stay rich and the poor get poorer. And so social justice is a thing, especially as a person of color and experiencing racism in this country, that I believe very strongly in. And I like being in the Bronx, and I like that these people are like me and that I can affect change with them and be like, I'm just like you, you know, I was raised poor. You know, my parents only have a high school diploma and I was able to get my master's from Columbia University. You know, I was able to push through a lot of the barriers that I experienced in my life. And so you can do the same.
I love that.
You know, like teaching in the Bronx. Like, I don't think I'd want to go anywhere else, you know, because I'm like, these people are the ones that need it the most. And it's a place that a lot of people don't want to go to because they're scared to come here. And I don't really know why.
That's awesome. I love that mission.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's great. Yay. Oh, can you please share with us how they can reach you, like on social media, on like, how can they reach out to you?
Sure. Well, on Facebook, my name is Erika Velazquez, the same on my Instagram account, but I have made a separate Instagram account called Meditation Yoga, which I just started about a month ago. to, you know, expose people to the practice and put positive quotes, and, you know, for people that are able to come to the class, of course, just advertise where it is, you know, the times, the days, and how much. And so that's the main way that people can reach me. I also have email, you know, and it's eg201258@gmail.com if they want to reach out and, you know, ask any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, if anybody has any
Thank
questions for her, if anybody, you know, is in the city, definitely try to go to one of her classes. You said your schedule will be on your like Instagram and your Facebook, etc., right? So they can find out about your classes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks.